Greetings everybody, GameTrog here, and this video will show you how to hook up the original Model 1 Sega Genesis using an RCA or composite cable. You will need a Model 1 Sega Genesis. You can tell it's a Model 1 Sega Genesis if it has the volume control knob up on the top left. It's larger than a Genesis 2. And yours may or may not have high definition graphics written across the top. There are a couple variations of the Model 1 Genesis, and they both work the same. So either way, you're good. You will also need a power supply, in this case a 1602 or replacement. You will need the AV cables. And at the end of the video, we'll show you optionally how to get stereo out of the Genesis using a mini audio jack to RCA, going from the headphone port on the Genesis. Alright, on the back of the Genesis we have several ports. Yours may or may not have an EXT port. This was never used, so we don't need it. There's also a channel select 3 and 4 and an RF out. You're not going to be using these for an RCA connection. You will be using the AV out port and the adapter port for the power supply. Alright, first things first, let's grab our RCA cable. Now the AV port on the back of the first Genesis does not output stereo, so most cables will only have a yellow video cable and one white audio cable. Grab your Sega Genesis. Now on the back, you'll see the AV port, AV out. On your cable, you'll see a little notch on most of these cables. That part faces up on the system. It will slide right into the AV port pretty easily. Boom. Now let's grab our power supply and get it plugged in. Same thing. Flip around the Sega. Power port is right here and it will simply slide right in. Easy peasy. Now before we start, we can quickly test out the Genesis to see if it has power. Just grab your power supply, plug it into an outlet, and throw the on-off switch on. You get a light on the Genesis, you're in good shape. Alright, let's look at the back of a TV. Now, all TVs will be different. This particular one has all kinds of AV options. You'll see at the bottom we have some red, blue, and green. These are for component, and you won't be using those. You'll be using the red, white, and yellow. And here we got 3 options. AV1 and AV2. You'll also see that these have a black port there, and that is an S-video port, and we're not going to be worried about that either. So we're going to grab our AV cable. We're going to take the yellow video, and we're going to plug it right into the video, AV port 1. And we're going to stick the audio cable into the left white audio jack. Now, when you only have one, many TVs will actually output sound from both speakers when you plug it into the white port. If you notice it's only coming from one side of the TV, you could try the red port. Now let's take our Sega Genesis and pop in a game. Let's do Sonic 2. Turn her on. We got power. We're good to go. Alright, let's grab the remote for the TV. And what we're going to be looking for is the input button. Now, it could say input, or it could say source. Either one of these buttons will cycle through the input options that you noticed on the back of your TV. Flip the TV on. Right now we are on the air. When you see static, you're on the air channel, or TV. We're going to grab and start pressing our input button and flip on until we find, boom, the game. You got your game playing, you got your sound playing, you're ready to go. Now let's play some Sonic 2. Optional stereo sound from the Sega Genesis. Let's grab the mini audio jack to RCA cable that we mentioned earlier. You can get stereo sound from the Genesis when using the headphone port located on the front. It's right underneath the volume knob. We're going to grab the headphone jack and we'll slide it right into the port on the front. Go ahead and make sure your volume is turned all the way up. Now move back to the back of the television, and where you had the white cable from the AV cable plugged into the audio, you will just remove that cable. You can let it hang and take the audio from the front of the system and plug it in place. This cable has a red and a blue label, but most will be red and white and easily identified. And again, we are using port 1 here. And now you'll get true stereo sound from your Sega Genesis Model 1. Troubleshooting. A lot of times if your game's not working, it's probably the game itself. The blade on the bottom that connects with the Genesis can get quite dirty. We can easily clean this by using some rubbing alcohol. Simply grab some rubbing alcohol, grab a Q-tip or cotton swab, dip it into the alcohol, and then scrub both sides of the blade, running back and forth along all the contacts. And this will normally result in a dirty Q-tip. And now that game is clean. Now that blade actually slides into an insert in the cartridge bay, which can also get dirty sometimes. So I like to take the cartridge while it still has a little bit of the alcohol from the cleaning and insert it into the Sega a couple times to scrub the contacts on the inside. It's not going to hurt the system or the cartridge. The alcohol will evaporate quickly. Do that a couple times. And now see if your game works. If it doesn't, try a different game. That should have you up and running. If you have any questions, you can reach me at GameTrog.com.